should say we don't know.
So what I'm saying
when
is
we don't know.
So what I'm saying is, yeah, but you're not being. I don't believe you're being genuine with regards to that.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'll tell you why. When you don't have a natural explanation, science says it doesn't know.
Right.
Which is fine.
Right.
Because they're only looking for a natural explanation.
But it's no. I disagree.
You can disagree as you like. But what I'm saying to you is this: that's true.
Okay.
Do you disagree that science rejects the existence of the supernatural?
I disagree with that.
Do you?
Yeah.
I thought that was its premise.
A lot of people think that, but I disagree.
So are you saying naturalism is not the premise of science?
Yes, I am saying that.
Okay.
The reason I say that...
which prominent scientists agree with this? Just so I know.
Okay. Well, okay, so I'll give you an example of a study that was done.
I didn't ask that. I was under the impression, from what I've read and researched, that the premise of science is naturalism. Therefore, everything requires a natural explanation.
Right.
That's why they say evolution is a theory, because it's the best explanation we can come up, which is natural.
No, I think I disagree. So I think
disagree.
Okay.
So as you disagree, what I'm saying to you is this. So you're saying I'm wrong, believing the premise of science is naturalism. So which scientists, just so I can understand, because look, I'm not here to win contests here, and I'm sorry you got upset with the title. For me, it was apt, is where it is. But I just want to know who agrees with what you're saying.
Okay. So let me try and respond. Okay. So there is a study done on whether prayer works. Okay. It was commissioned by I think it was Templeton Foundation. I'm not sure, but it was a very large study. And what they did was they divided people up into groups. Some were prayed for, some weren't prayed for, and they looked to see did the people who were prayed for perform better than not. Okay? So there's no assumption in analysing that data that supernatural doesn't exist. They just want to see what does the evidence say. Does it support the supernatural claim here or not? So therefore, I would disagree that science necessarily has to remove
so I'll say it
the
again
supernatural.
to you. Which scientist?
Okay. Well, the authors of that study.
No.
Well, all right, I'll look them up for you.
No, it's important because I've never heard this before.
Okay, I'll look up the study for you. Okay, I'll look up the study for you.
And let me just get my support. Find the doctor for me. Can this guy help as well? Because he's an atheist as well. Sure. Go on. What's the script? What's going on?
Okay, so do a large study on. There you go. It's got 383 citations, so it's reasonably well studied. Page is unfound. Sorry. Look at Wikipedia page. Studies on intercessory prayer. There's plenty of studies on that. Right. You can go on the Wikipedia page.
Right. So basically, what we're saying is this. Phil here, he was upset that he was upset.
You okay?
Good. Hey, how you doing?
He was upset when we called the video.
He's already upset. I just think it's contradictory.
He took exception to the term "don't know of the gaps" that we put on his video. So what I said was, according to what I understand, the premise of science is naturalism. That everything has a natural explanation. And for me, they don't know what they come up with is because they don't know a natural explanation, and rather allow a supernatural explanation, they completely dismiss it. So from the way I looked at it, if you don't know of a natural explanation and you exclude any supernatural explanation, that means you're just using don't know instead of allowing a supernatural explanation. So that's what I was explaining why we did that title. So now what Phil's saying is that science doesn't have naturalism as its premise.
Okay.
Now I read a book, The Philosophy of Science, and it says it does.
People disagree on this.
All right.
Right. People disagree on this. Right. If you look, even study philosophers, right? There was the largest study I know of philosophers was the Phil Paper survey, and they asked philosophers what was their opinion on various controversial things. Okay. So one of them was scientific realism. Most philosophers agree with scientific realism. Another one was God or atheism, and about 76% of those philosophers lean towards atheism, right? But much less, I can't remember the exact number, I think it's like 50%, said they were naturalists. So you've got like a quarter of those philosophers who said they're atheists but weren't naturalists.
Do you believe in the supernatural?
One of the problems of saying it has to assume naturalism, and there's discussion on this in the philosophical literature, it's actually difficult to define what naturalism is.
Do you believe in the supernatural?
Okay. No, I don't. I don't.
Why not?
Well, I haven't seen any convincing evidence for the supernatural.
Okay, but what evidence?
Okay.
What measuring tool would you use for the supernatural?
Well, again, this is a difficult thing. Like, one of the problems of talking about naturalism and saying this is the essence of science is actually defining what you mean by that.
Could the cause of the universe be supernatural?
Right. Well, hang on. That it is not helping us, is it? We're trying to say how do we? There's a difficult problem of how to actually define what is natural and what is not natural. Okay, and there's a difficult, very difficult problem there, and that may be why many philosophers that say they're atheists don't say they're naturalists. Okay, because there's a difficulty in defining what naturalism is. I'll give you just to unpack that a little bit. Let's suppose let's not talk about God for the moment. Let's say ghosts, right? So generally ghosts are considered supernatural. Okay, they don't conform to the laws of physics. Okay, but now let's suppose, and also people think that evidence for ghosts is pretty shoddy. Okay, it's all anecdotes and crappy pictures and so on. Right? Let's suppose.
Sorry,
okay,
can we face the camera?
That's fine, yeah. So let's suppose we found that there was very good evidence for ghosts, and let's suppose we found some explanation for them. Then you might say, well, now they're natural, right? So what does it mean to say that something is natural or not natural? It's actually a much more difficult definitional problem.
Okay.
That's why I don't say science is all about natural.
All right. So
what I think science is about a combination of theoretical and observational testing of ideas.
Right.
That's, to me, the key to science. It's not really about naturalism. In fact, you look at scientific papers, they will almost never mention naturalism. They'll say, here's the tests we did, here's the experiments we did, here's the theory, here's why we think it's consistent and all that. And that, if you look at scientific papers, that is really what it's about.
Phil, you said you don't believe in the supernatural.
I don't know of anything that's claimed.
No, you didn't say that. I asked you, do you believe in the supernatural?
Okay.
You said no.
All right, fine.
How do you
as I said, there's a difficulty though in defining what is supernatural.
How do you define it?
Very difficult.
But you've rejected it, so you must have an idea.
I mean, as I say, it's a difficulty in really defining what is natural and supernatural. There are certain things that are claimed to be supernatural. So we can have a set of things like ghosts, like God, like ESP,
I'm asking you.
and all those things that have been claimed, right, that are, as we understand them, not conforming to laws of physics. Those claims, I have not seen sufficient evidence.
Now, what do you understand the supernatural to be?
Okay, so things that, let's say, are not consistent with the laws of physics.
So you're saying things can't...
But there's a difficulty, because suppose we found that these things did exist, then we might have to say, well, we might...
No, but right now.
Okay, fine.
So right now you're saying you reject the existence of things that don't conform to the laws of physics.
Well, I only reject things where the evidence is not sufficient to give belief. I'm really saying belief should be based on evidence. Okay? So where you have a little bit of evidence, you have a little bit of belief. When you have a bit more evidence, you have a bit more belief. When you have overwhelming evidence, you have confident belief.
I think belief is based on reason, probably the same thing. But carry on.
Okay.
I think one of the things now from our last conversation that was an issue was just getting a consistent worldview from you. That was my feeling.
Sure.
Because whenever a scenario was presented, you could think of a counter scenario or a counter theory that our even analogy to say that it wasn't valid. So we're finding a similar thing now.
I'm
sorry, I speak quite low. So now what I'm finding is, even in the term of the underpinning principles that science or the scientific method assumes. So there are some presumptions within science, and I could be wrong about this. You can tell me about it. But one of those assumptions is there aren't any non-natural explanations, however you define naturalism. So that's a fundamental sort of underlying, and then that leads on to sort of whether you're a hard naturalist or
I disagree with that.
Sure. So for us, so we understand, what is your position on what is natural and what isn't, and what underpins science?
I mean, as I say, what I think underpins science is not an assumption about naturalism. And the example I gave was that people do study the effectiveness of prayer, and that is a perfectly legitimate scientific study. Right? If we found that only the prayers of Sunni Muslims had effects. And let's suppose we divided the group up of people. We said, look, there's a whole bunch of people in a council board. Okay, we're going to ask Sunni Muslims to pray. We're going to ask Shia Muslims to pray. We're going to ask Catholics to pray, Jews to pray, Hindus to pray. Okay, and we do experiments like that, and we find that it turns out that only Sunni Muslims, their prayers work. Nobody else's prayers ever have any effect. To me, that would be doing science, because what science is really about